do genuinely believe in partnership approach.
It's understanding the problem, being brave enough to go, actually we need some support and assistance in a particular area, and like I say, leaning on Phoebus for those for that technical know-how.
Okay guys, thanks for coming on to our podcast. Really appreciate you being here. Today we're going to be diving into what a good loan book migration looks like, as well as some of the key challenges that are faced as we go through that process. I'm joined here with Simon Hayton, COO of Pure Retirement, and Richard Pike, Chief Sales and Marketing Officer at Phoebus Software. Kate O'Regan, my colleague from Woodhurst, and myself, Alex Bywater, COO, CFO at Woodhurst. So, Richard, we were in touch recently talking about the Specialist Lender Report that we recently released in partnership with Finitive, which was powering the lenders, the technology landscape. Be keen to know, Richard, could you give us a bit of an overview of Phoebus?
Absolutely, yeah. So Phoebus is the market-leading supplier of account servicing software for building societies, specialist lenders and banks in the UK. We've got about 120 billion under management of various different asset types at the moment.
Excellent. And Simon, would you like to give a brief overview of Pure Retirement?
Yeah, we've been in existence for nearly 12 years. Lifetime mortgage provider, 5.7 billion of assets under management. We originate lifetime mortgages. We tend to hover around the 15 to 20% of the lifetime mortgage market in terms of new originations. Lots of product development, all supported by our friends at Phoebus.
Brilliant, thanks both. And so, very curious, how did you guys get to know each other then? What were the circumstances that brought you together?
Oh, I think it was a cricket match, wasn't it?
It was England versus England, West Indies.
Yeah, corporate cricket event.
Manchester,
yeah. But no, we. I used to work at a competitor lifetime mortgage provider where we use Phoebus. Had a great experience in using Phoebus at that particular company.
Yeah.
And as the conversations were developing about Pure Retirement, in the very, very early days, I know the team at Phoebus and the team at Pure Retirement, each partnership reached out to me to effectively say, what system should we use, and was effectively recommending the great people at Phoebus and that particular solution. It was essentially the only choice for me in terms of joining the company and the system to use.
We've been working in the market since 2007. We were the only credible supplier at that time, really. There was other people trying to come to the market, but our experience and everything definitely helped Simon make that decision.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Amazing.
And I suppose then in terms of the work that you've actually done together, so I think based on your case study, you've done, I think, 3 loan book migrations, or is it more than that now?
It'll be 7 in March.
7? So
catching them up.
Now that the next one's coming up, just kind of interested to hear a little bit about what's changed with each migration have you done? Have you been able to kind of streamline that process at all?
Yeah, absolutely. It was. The first one was pretty seamless anyway. So it was a small book migration from a trusted mortgage provider in the marketplace. Still lifetime mortgages, but they needed a solution for their lifetime mortgage customers. So a relatively small book to migrate across. We used the XML feed from Phoebus, which they supported on, and it was a team of 2 of us that managed that migration within Pure, with the support of the great team at Phoebus to get it over the line. And then, migration number 2 was using the Migrations API, which Phoebus developed for us and for all your other clients, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly right. I think we've had a massive focus on building out API technology. So we use that for migrating cases. We use the same API for bringing originations on board from originations providers as well. So you can either bring a whole book across or individual loans. So that works well, and we use both with Simon's business. But going from sort of the XML through to the proper API to automate the process has been a big investment from us.
Yeah.
So we've done migrations for Simon, coming up to the 7th one. From sort of hundreds of accounts to thousands of accounts. The biggest one we've done is probably 250,000 accounts. Then they always go in. we normally start the process off on a weekend, on a Saturday morning, and it's done by Sunday lunchtime.
Yeah. I mean, for us, it can be as streamlined as a Friday night and the Saturday morning. We're just checking like final numbers and job done.
Yeah. Amazing. I've got so many questions from it,
Yeah.
Kate, as
Yeah.
well. But
Crack on, go.
so has it become smoother then as you've worked together over time? You kind of you understand each other, how each other work, and I
Yeah.
guess you probably know each other's teams pretty well.
Exactly right. I think we've had a pretty much the same team on Pure since day one, the same PM since day one. But also at exec level, we know each other well. We know Paul well, the CEO as well. We don't believe it's sort of a client is only a client until go live, then that's it. You then go on to the next one. We do genuinely believe in partnership approach.
Yeah.
So, we've introduced funding lines, we've introduced all sorts of stuff, because we know what's going on in the market. And we know that these guys are interested in it. So it's not just around the actual implementation of the software. It's actually experience in the marketplace and making sure that you get maximum value out of our system and out of our business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the 7 migrations would not have happened without it being a partnership. So we learn from each one. We learn a little bit from each one. It might be that we learn about a particular technology aspect that we can manage ourselves, or it might be that we need to lean on Phoebus for some additional support in a particular area, or it's a new product that we haven't serviced before that we need some support on. So all of that is part of that migration process that the team at Phoebus provide.
And what would you say is kind of the main challenge maybe you face in terms of when you're migrating these sort of loan books across? What's kind of the big thing that always stands out as a kind of bump in the road, or something that you weren't expecting that's maybe come up in one of these that has required that sort of adaptability?
I think any migration, data is key, is absolute key.
Yeah.
So it's Simon will be testimony to this. It's not just about the data of what's coming across and what the host system looks like, because we try to automate that transition into the format it needs to go into Simon's version of Phoebus, as much as possible. But you understanding your data, and the constructs in your data at your end as well is really important as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And even with when we're migrating a loan book that's been serviced by another provider on another platform, we help that particular servicer understand their own data, put it into the relevant context for it being prepared to go into Phoebus. And we spend a good amount of time. In fact, actually, the vast majority of the time is working through those data nuances, so that when we're using the technology that Phoebus provide, it makes it seamless, and that seems to be the best foot forward that we have in terms of a migration, having that approach.
And so I guess now coming on to the 7th migration, you've kind of got that process pretty slick. You know exactly what you need to be looking at in the data, making sure that it's complete, it's going to feed into the systems nice and easily. Is that all done in-house? Is that something that you've built up in your team over time?
Yeah, all the knowledge is in-house, but let me explain that knowledge has been built up through consultation with Phoebus as well. So they know what needs to make their system work in the best possible way. So we lean on that knowledge.
Yeah.
We've got some ex-Phoebus employees that work for us as well, which kind of help. So having all of that knowledge sort of pushed into making sure that first cut of the data is in absolutely the best possible place, does make for a very smooth road.
And that's been able to do the weekend migration.
Yeah.
Where turn it on and then you come back on the Monday and it's all sorted.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, most of our clients don't need an SI at all. I mean, we're able to work with them and actually deliver it between the two businesses, even large clients.
That's impressive, really impressive.
What do you think would be kind of like a key piece of advice? Because I know the sort of specialist lending market is growing quite significantly, and there's probably a lot of specialist lenders out there who are considering these types of things, either an implementation or a migration. And so what's the kind of a key sort of piece of advice that you would give, either when you're starting out that process of working with a vendor or a lender, and how you kind of manage that process successfully and make sure you're aligned on those outcomes?
You better answer this one.
Yeah, go on then. Crikey. So it's got to work from a relationship point of view. So I come at it from I like working with people that I like, and that goes a long way in terms of Pure Retirement's way of working with partners. So it's not a case of shouting and screaming at anyone. It's understanding the problem, being brave enough to go, actually, we need some support and assistance in a particular area, and like I say, leaning on Phoebus for those for that technical know-how, but also it being a two-way street. So there's often times where we'll suggest a potential fix to a problem, and Phoebus will be all over it and make that change. So it always has to be a two-way street with these sorts of implementations. It's not a this is the way it's done and leave you to it. I know that would be the most efficient way of doing it, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't get the greatest results in the end, and you end up with data in the wrong place. And the worst thing that can happen with any sort of migration of this ilk, or indeed just onboarding a new platform provider, is that customers get the wrong information at the end of the day. So the robustness of the process from the Phoebus perspective means that I don't need to think very hard about that particular issue. I just need to think hard about managing the data correctly and preparing the well-established roadmap of getting the data in.
It sounds like it's much wider than just saying, here's a solution, off you go. It sounds like Phoebus has provided a lot of support around the edges as well to ensure that there's been a smooth migration. I was wondering from like a resource standpoint and capability skill set standpoint, be fascinated to know, where would you say are the key capabilities and key skills that you'd need to have in the organization to be able to make that migration smooth? Is it sort of like the data skills? Is it the change capability? Be interested to explore that a little bit.
From our perspective, as the company, if you like, providing the services, we know what we need. So there is going to be data, there's going to be business knowledge, there's always going to be some management around it. But it's fairly easy for us. We've done it so many times now. Probably some business analysis in terms of what we're actually doing as well. That's all fairly standard stuff for us. On your side.
On our side, we start with business analysts creating a business requirements document. Even though it's a well-trodden path, we do that for every migration anyway. Just establishes that we know what the end goals are, and so do Phoebus, and it's documented.
Sorry, is that done all in-house, or is that done jointly with Phoebus? How does that process work?
First draft is always us, because we'll invariably be talking to the current service provider and making sure that they can cope with what we're asking for. So the early conversations tend to go down the route of here are some data requirements. First off, can you make sure you can provide this data in a readable format? If the answer is no, or we're not sure, or it has to be across several different tables or formats, then we're into a bit more sort of development our side to sort of get it into shape. Way of working. And then so business analysts for the data, we have MI people, because invariably whilst we're servicing the account, someone is the asset owner is going to want some MI, both to prove that the migration's gone successfully and ongoing MI. So we have MI people that will focus on that. And because, again, Phoebus use a really robust core database platform, we can pick the bits of the MI straight from our standard processes. So usually it's a relatively straightforward process, providing the asset manager doesn't need anything too crazy. And then we're into verifying the data through iterations. First iteration might be checking balances, checking interest rates, checking product setup. There might be some nuances with early repayment charges, with we've pretty much seen every sort of nuance within the lifetime mortgage market with the sort of products that we've migrated over the years. So there's pretty much nothing that we can't throw at Phoebus, and there'll be a solution for it, which, to Rich's point, that's why we use them, and that's why we can use them for all of these sorts of weird and wonderful products. Give you some examples. There's lifetime mortgages that we've migrated from 15, 20 years ago. The product market looked very, very different 20 years ago in terms of lifetime mortgages, and it looks completely different today. A lot more complex, a lot more bespoke for customers, and Phoebus can handle all of that.
Yeah.
And that comes from the experience statement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's formed in 1989. We've done an awful lot of this.
Yeah.
So the edge cases that sort of not on a lot of newer platforms can't deal with because they haven't got experience of it. Yeah, whereas we've been doing it since '89, so we just got to go back and find out where we've done it before and work out a way of building it into the migration.
Yeah, sort of been evolving with the market at
Absolutely,
the same time.
Yeah.
Because I think that's quite a big question that a lot of businesses have, especially because we work a lot with building societies entering into sort of the specialist lending market now. But a lot of the things we've seen across the sort of building society space is that kind of question of, do you try and manage it all in-house when you're doing a kind of implementation process, or is it something that you outsource? And it's kind of that move up the risk curve, isn't it, as to how much you want to look to manage within your own company, and whether that is sort of the kind of cost benefit analysis of doing that. But I suppose from Pure Retirement side, when you know that there will likely be lots of migrations coming up, it's worthwhile having those skills kind of in-house so that you can continue to kind of manage that process going forward.
Yeah, and to reiterate, you don't have to have those skills in-house. Phoebus can support on that.
Yeah.
It's just we happen to put our sort of stake in the sand and sort of say our flag in the sand, so to speak. That we're up for migrations. We want to do more of these. We are a servicer of lifetime mortgages, and hopefully a servicer of choice for lifetime mortgages. But we're only so because of the history that's built up. So again, with the support of Phoebus, making it smooth.
Yeah.
And what would you say were, I guess, as you've been kind of building up internal capabilities and then working with Phoebus as well, what would you kind of be advising on the makeup between the core in-house skills that you've got to have? You sort of mentioned the data business analysis that you've got to have there. Is there anything else where you'd say you really want to be building up these capabilities internally so that you can have successful migrations? And then I'd also be interested to hear from Phoebus' standpoint, what do you find works really well when you're working with a client to ensure that there's a smooth migration?
Yeah, I mean, it really helps having good Phoebus product knowledge. So what is the system absolutely capable of? Again, you've got Phoebus on the end of the phone or the end of a Teams call to consult on that, but it really does help knowing the capability of the system from the start. So you know where the pitfalls are going to be. I'll give you some examples. So we had a new product set that we migrated on maybe the 5th or 6th migration that was completely new to Pure Retirement in terms of a product. Required direct debits to be processed. Lifetime mortgage market typically isn't. There's no mandatory payments on a standard lifetime mortgage, so you typically wouldn't have a direct debit set up. We had direct debits actually set up on another product line, but this was a slightly different process and a slightly different product makeup. So having the ability to consult with Phoebus, but having the background knowledge of what we think are the capabilities, but then actually having a further conversation, you explore, we do that for the standard mortgage market, or we do that for the banking sector,
right,
or we do that for other types of asset management. Okay, well, we can lean on those that knowledge and come up with a really nice joint solution that still gets us over that hurdle within the migration and doesn't put the migration timeline at risk because you've got, like I say, a system that covers a wide variety of financial services products.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, you're exactly right. From we as part of an implementation and initial discussions, we find out whether it's just greenfield or whether there is a migration involved. And as soon as we understand there might be a migration involved, whether it be straight away or in the future maybe, because somebody's going to buy a book or something like that, then at that point, very early on, we sort of say you need to have these types of resources that Simon's describing to be able to help that, or we can do it for you. And now obviously one has a different cost implications than the other potentially, so us doing everything compared to the client doing everything, but we have the capability of one or the other, or just a really good mix of both. So that's really where we're at. I think the really important piece from our perspective is that the clients don't understand until they work with us that literally every single bit of data that is held on the host system or systems, if it's multiple systems, comes across. So it's not like a 12-month cut of data. We literally bring everything. So if there's a loan on there that's 30 years old, we will bring every transaction, every image, every note on the account, and the whole lot comes across. Yeah, so you haven't got to run multiple systems. You haven't got to have backup systems with whole. You just have to go and look at different screens and stuff to find out what happened in 1990 on a loan. It's there in front of you for the user.
I mean, and
that's a massive USP for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do hear where people are dual running systems, and maybe over time the legacy system that they're using, the loan book's getting smaller and smaller over time, but it's actually taken more and more effort to maintain.
Absolutely.
You bring someone new on, they have to upskill them now on 2 systems. Can be a bit of a nightmare. Other questions then. So just thinking about as Pure Retirement's growing and looking a little bit into the future with what you're doing digitally, you're going through various migrations. Where do you kind of see yourself in 5 years, and what are the kind of market trends that you see, and particularly in the digital world, in the digital landscape?
Yeah, I'm from a lifetime mortgage market perspective, entirely bespoke products for consumers is kind of where I see things going. It does add a little bit of complexity into what advisors are selling out there in the market, but having a system that can provide that bespoke level of customer product is paramount, and we've got that with Phoebus. So that's sort of, in terms of the lifetime mortgage market, that's sort of where I see it going. In terms of overall sort of financial services trends, I mean, everyone's talking about artificial intelligence as being
it's a classic.
The way forward. I mean, us and Phoebus have both been doing work in that particular area. Whether you call it artificial intelligence is a matter for debate, but robotic process automation is first level AI, isn't it, really? So we've been doing that both on the side of Phoebus and with Phoebus since we started. So every process being as automated as it can be. And that next level for us is we've got things like LLM to help us support in decision making, not actually making the decisions, but supporting in the decision making and consolidating lots of information. So to give you an example, we've got 27 different divisions in Phoebus, so that's 27 different portfolios serviced in a slightly different way each time. That's a fairly large task to manage in terms of a user knowing all of that information and people knowing all of that. So applying that logic, you'd expect a large language model to sort of be able to consolidate all of that information and spit out a meaningful suggestion as to how to approach a particular problem with an account or that. So that's how we're seeing it. I'm being sort of fairly vague because ultimately it's early days, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's where I'm seeing it going from our current standpoint.
And those skill sets seem to be, again, more and more in demand in the market. And it's then how do you build up the capability in-house, which some clients do, and do you then work with a partner to help build that? And it's also AI, as you said, it can touch on so many different areas. So it's like, do you then start to use different suppliers to help with different requirements of AI? I guess that's a challenge that a lot of clients are facing at the moment in there.
Yeah, I mean, we dabble in both. So we use a partner who was recommended by Phoebus for some automation. We use Phoebus for some automation. We use our own developers for some level of automation as well. So it's the three-pronged approach, I think.
Yeah, from our perspective, I think you're exactly right. I mean, the key to servicing accounts efficiently is automation, and so we have business automation throughout Phoebus. So the idea of Phoebus is that if an account goes via contract until it redeems, you shouldn't really need any human intervention on that unless the customer needs it. Okay, so on that basis, 80% of your book, 90% of your book can just go along quite nicely, collect direct debits, etc., if required. And it's only when a direct debit or something happens that means suddenly that you haven't had their payment,
Yeah.
then another part of the system kicks in automatically and says, right, what do? Like we send out a letter, or we put a diary note in for a call, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And those automations could be as complicated or as easy as you like. Yeah, we have some clients that maybe have, you know, a few pages of Visio for an arrears process. We have some clients have got 250 pages of Visio. You know, it's either end. You know, what sort of scale do you want? But there is that. So I think, you know, AI personally, yeah, we are looking at it quite a lot. We've obviously got a lot of data to play with for the amount of time we've been around as well, and how best to utilise that. So yeah, we're investing. We've been doing some partnership work with universities, etc. as well.
Nice.
You know,
Yeah.
we've got a lot of good unis around the Midlands where we're based.
Yeah.
So we're looking at all different angles for it. But yeah, it's undoubtedly we're going to utilise it in some way, shape, or form now, whether that be, you know, behavioural work on the portfolio. So, you know, things like maybe a user is going through a process or sort of starts a death process maybe or something like that, then the system will actually say, well, actually, yeah, I now know this will probably be the next screen you need, rather than you having to think about it. So you can really get into the customer experience, things like that. You know, I think that's the areas that we'll probably be looking at.
Yeah.
You know, just making it, we just want to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah,
as
seamless.
as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's interesting just generally as well, the being conscious around striking that balance between how much you automate versus where you need your kind of human contact points. And I think that's something that will be figured out over hopefully the next few years as all this stuff starts being brought in and integrated into more businesses. But that's something that everyone I think is very conscious of making sure that everything is automated, but when you need it, and especially from a kind of customer experience, user experience perspective, you have that support there if you need that, you have that human contact point. And I think that will be interesting to see how that develops.
And it'd be interesting because otherwise you could end up, I'm picturing the dystopian future of there's no human intervention in anything, but that wouldn't work for a lot of people. They kind of want that human element and that human touch point.
Doesn't work for our demographic.
No, absolutely.
It needs to be, all the approaches need to be available. So we've got customers that are entirely fine with interacting with us online. We've got sort of a complementary customer-facing site that we call it MyPure. It sits on the side of what we have with Phoebus, and provides really great customer service for those that want to interact with us online. But that doesn't stop us from being open 9 to 5 and answering calls within 25 seconds, and you know, we're not in the business of removing that element because we can't, because we know that you know, we have 90-plus-year-old customers that need that level of support, that don't have access to the internet, that don't have access to the latest technology. So absolutely needs everything complementary.
Yes.
Because so yeah, complementary to the phone service, complementary to the online service, complementary to the services that we're already getting through the Phoebus platform.
Yeah, it's about automating the stuff that just can be automated, so statements and things like that. You know, you find some lenders have got, they print the statements out and then they have loads of QA teams around checking them before they go out. It's kind of, really? Okay. Yeah, you know, we just sort of send it to a print house and let them go. You know, we work in a highly regulated environment. We don't have any issues around that, so that type of stuff. So there is stuff that can just be automated.
Absolutely. I mean, you're entirely right. All of those, that robustness of Phoebus makes me want to take some of the heavy admin processes and automate those, and we do. Annual statements is a great example. There's a load of other examples across the servicing platform that are little to no human involvement whatsoever, but retaining the ability to answer the phone, answer an email, and it not be a chatbot online is fairly crucial in my view.
Yes. Agreed. There's nothing worse than the frustration sometimes talking to a chatbot and you're like, I just want to be able to speak to a human. I feel like I wouldn't be able to explain the complications of my particular issue into a chatbot. You'll like misinterpret something and you're like, where do I go from here? Well, Simon, Richard, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you very much for coming.
It's been great.
It's been great, and thank you to all our listeners.